So yesterday we had seen the conditional statements, and we had seen how if, and else works. So basically, when you have if, and else structure, so what happens is like your, let me show it through the demo. I think we already had the demo. So we can see in this demo, like when you have something like this conditional statements, so what happens if this statement already got executed, and when the Java compiler sees that there's an else if to this if, so if this if statement condition was correct, if I less than 5 was correct, if this statement was if this condition was correct, so this gets executed, this print statement is executed. And if there is an else if block, so even if the condition is correct, this will not be executed. And even if this else if condition is correct, this will not be executed. And and this else block also does not get executed. So what happens is like only one of the conditional statements get executed. Now, what happens in another case when we have two if blocks, one if block and another if block? Forget forget these lines, like line number 17 to 25 does not exist. When we have two if blocks, so what happens if the first conditional statement is correct, this gets executed. And if the second if block conditional statement is correct, this also gets executed. Now, there was another case, like if this condition is not correct, then the Java compiler will go and now let's say that we don't have this if block, we have just this structure. If, else if, and else. So when we have something like this, what happens? The Java compiler will see for this conditional statement. If this condition is false, it goes on to check if there's an else if to this if. So again, suppose this else if condition is false again, so it will go and see if there is a further else if condition. So even if this condition is false, then it goes to the default else block. And in the default else block, whatever is there, that gets printed. So this was what we discussed yesterday. And Admasu, if you had missed this, so I think this would be a revision. You can just get some hold of this. Also, we saw do while and while loop yesterday. I think that was means those are like different ways of iterations or repetitions that we want to perform. Mostly we had seen three ways of performing iterations or repetitions. One was for loop, one was while loop, and other was do while loop. So these were the things which we covered yesterday. So basically we'll start with another topic today, and that is nested else if. So we had seen this if else structure. So let's see what this nested if else is. So if you see this if, and if you see this else if, so these are like separate if blocks and like else if blocks. There's no nesting of blocks. So what I mean by nesting of blocks is one if block or one else if block can have another if block or else if block. Means like we have one outer if block, and that can contain like another if block. Let me explain it with a demo. So I'll name it as nested conditional statements. So int a equal to 10. b equal to 15. C equal to 25. See, this is another way of like declaring and initializing variables. See, I had to like initialize three variables. So what I did was I just wrote int a equal to 10 separated by commas, b equal to 15, comma, c equal to 25. This is another way of writing, which could be like written separately like this as well. Int a equal to 10, int b equal to 15, and int c equal to 25. These three statements are equivalent to the single statement. So we can just write this as well. When we have the similar data types, we can just write a data type like this, mention the data type like integer, int, and then followed by variable initialization a equal to 10, comma b equal to 15, comma c equal to 25. This is another way. So let's see what we mean by nested conditional statements. By nested conditional statements, I mean that one if block or one else if block or else block. So these are the blocks, conditional blocks, which we have already seen, like if, else if, and else. This can contain another set of if, else if, or else blocks. So let me just see, let me just try to go through this. If C greater than B, C is greater than B. And within this if block, so this if block starts at line number 7 and ends at line number 10. So within this if block, I will have another if, and I'll just write down if B greater than A, B is greater than A. And what I can do, I can write an else. So this else block will correspond to which if block? This else block will correspond to this if block. So if B is greater than A, B is greater than A. Otherwise, what we can print is B is smaller than A. So this is like nesting of structures. Like this was the outer if block. This can contain another if block. This can also contain an else if block. And this else can also contain any number of if blocks, any number of else if blocks. So within this else also, let me write down another if. Let me initialize another variable z equal to 100. If z equal to 100, we'll print hello. And we within this else block, we are also printing b is smaller than a. So what are the expected outputs? Can anyone let me know like what all things will be printed once I run this program? C is 25, B is 10. Sorry, B is 15. So C is definitely greater than B, right? So if I go within this block, if C is greater than B, do you think this will get printed?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also adding something here, one else block. So see, this if block ends here. Line number 7 it started, at line number 18 it ended. So this if block ended here. So I'm writing one else block for this if block. And what I'm printing over here is I'm printing out
B is greater than C.
B
No.
is
Yeah, B is greater than C.
B is greater than. So these are like simple logical things, like simple conditional statements. Even if you like just interpret, means it would be like easy. There's nothing like very complex to understand these things. So let's start from the beginning. C is greater than B. Since C is 25, B is 15. So when we go and see this block, if C is greater than B, so the control will go in this if block, right? So it will start executing this set of statements. So what happens when this if block gets executed and if there is an else block? So if block is already getting executed, will this else block ever get executed?
No.
Yeah, correct. This will not get executed. So what happens? This if block is getting executed now and C is greater than B. We are printing this. This statement will get printed. C is greater than B. Now there is another set of conditional statements and this is within this if. So when the compiler comes at this point, it will see if B is greater than A. Is it? So 15 is greater than 10. So this statement gets printed and whatever else block corresponds to this. So there's an else block corresponding to this, right? This does not get executed. So what are the expected outputs here? What all things will be printed? This statement will get printed. This statement
Yes.
will get printed, right?
Yeah.
Let's run this. So C is greater than B, B is greater than A. So this got printed. Now let me make some changes to the values. Let's say, let's make A is equal to 20, B is equal to 15. So now what will happen? This will definitely get printed because C is still greater than B, right? Now, if B is greater than A, do you think this will get executed? Hello, everyone there?
Yes, yeah. It is executed.
Why will this print statement get executed? Can you?
Because it is if a condition. So the first one it is executed. C is greater than B, and as well B is greater than A
No,
will.
is B greater than A now? B is
Oh,
15, A is 20,
oh,
right? I changed the
which
values. So B is not greater than A. So
yeah.
this if block will not be
Not printed.
executed,
Yeah,
right?
not executed.
Let me write another else if block here. Okay, let's not go into the modulus operator now because that will be a bit complex. Okay, if C equal to 25, C is 25. Okay, so this got printed now. And when we see this, if b greater than a, this will not get executed. Now what happens? Else if c is equal to 25, is it correct? So c is 25, right? And we are using double equal to. Why do we use double equal to? This was for comparison, right? Remember the operators when we had seen the arithmetic operators and relational operators, conditional operators. We had gone through double equal to as well, right? So
Mhm.
this means is c is equal to 25. That means we are comparing whether c is equal to 25. So this is correct. So do you think this will get printed?
Yes.
My answer is no,
Why?
because the first if condition is true, so we are not go to the else condition.
No. Which line are you talking about? Are you talking about the if condition at line 7 or the if
Yeah,
condition at line number 9?
line 7.
So that is fine. This if condition got executed, but initially when we talked about, that was an else condition corresponding to this if block. That was not nesting of conditional statements. So when we talk of nesting of conditional statements, that means this if condition contains, means this is like outer if block and this is like inner if block. So this will get executed, right? Means it goes and checks whether now that the value is like b is equal to 15, a is equal to 20. So this will not get executed, but the Java compiler will go ahead and check these conditions. You're getting it? See, there are two different things. This was the demo which we talked yesterday. So here we had not seen any nesting of conditions. Means there's an if condition, there's an else if condition, and then there's like another else if, and then there's like the default else block. So what happens in this case? If this if block gets executed, so it will check whether there's a corresponding else if block. Means what I mean by corresponding is like these are at the same level. Means there's an if block, there's an else if block at the same level, and then there's an else if block at the same level. In this example, what we are seeing is this if block. What is the block? What is the conditional statement at the same level as this if block? There's only one another conditional statement, and this is this else block. So when I say that this conditional statement here gets executed, this else block will never be executed. You getting me? Everyone with me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So when this if block gets executed at line number 7, what is the corresponding another conditional block to this if block? There is only one else block. So this will not get executed. So this if condition got executed if c is greater than b, and then we this got printed, and we'll see for other statements. So see, these are also like another statements itself. So consider that when this got printed, it will the Java compiler will check for other conditions as well. So we'll see if b is greater than a. Is b greater than a? It's not. So this will not be printed. Now it will see whether there's an another else if block to this. So if you see else if c is equal to 25. So this will get printed. And when this gets printed, when one of the else if condition gets printed, it will see whether there is another set of conditional statement at the same level. So at the same level, we have another else condition. So this else block will not be executed. You're getting it? Let me try to run this program. So see, C is greater than B. This got printed. And if B is greater than A, this was not correct. So this did not get printed. So the Java compiler went ahead and checked that if there is another set of conditional statements at the same level, So there's else if block. So this condition was true. And when this condition was true, this got printed. See, even if in this else block, these conditions are true, we see that z equal to 100, right? But we had already discussed that when one of the conditional statements in if else ladder is executed, the other conditional statements do not get executed. So this else block will not be executed. Now let me make some changes to this. Let me delete this. What happens now? Now this if block was not executed, so it will go and check in this else block. In this else block, there is another if condition. So this if condition is correct, right? So what gets printed? This will get printed. Everyone with me?
Yes, Pritap.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, Prita. Yes.
this gets printed. This does not get printed. This does not get printed because the condition itself is not correct. So it will check if there is another conditional statement at this level. So we have this. And at this else block, there is another nesting condition. This else block contains another conditional statement, and that is if statement. So it will check for this if statement, if z equal to 100. So this condition is true. So this will print this. And then the compiler comes at this position. So this will also print this because it was in the same else block. It was in the same else block. And so the expected outputs will be C is greater than B, hello, and B is smaller than A. Everyone agreeing with me? Let me try
Yes.
to run this. C is greater than B, hello, B is smaller than A. So this was like nesting of if else conditions. So you could like try to go take some time today and try to like nest as much as if else conditions. Try to like use like 4 or 5 nesting of if conditions and try to like print some log print some statements inside those block. Then you will get to like know more. Means I think the logic is clear to you, but when you do some hands-on on these conditional statements, it will be more clear to you. So whatever I'm teaching, you go home and try to like do some hands-on exercises on those things. So then it will be like more clear. Anyone having any issues in this, in understanding this nested conditional statements?
Yes, Pritap.
Yes. What's the issue you are facing?
Yeah. When we do if else condition, if it is true, we are not go to the else condition, which means else block. If it is a false, we can go to the default else condition. But as it is a nesting condition. So if nest condition, if the first one, if condition is true, so we can go the next if condition.
No,
It
no.
is,
See, guess how? I think there's some confusion.
yeah.
And just give me a second. See, you need to like see the hierarchy as well. So when what I mean by hierarchy is like, see, there's a set of if conditional block here, and this if conditional block. Let's go in the example that we saw yesterday. This was the example which we saw yesterday, right? So, see, this if condition and this else if condition are at the same level. Means there's no nesting here, right? None of the statements are nested here. You understand this? You're getting this? None.
Yes, yeah, I understand this. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is no nesting. None of the if blocks are basically like containing another else block or anything as such. So what happens like this? So if there's an so this is one statement if block, and there is another else if statement which corresponds to this if block because they are at the same level. And this else if condition is also like part of the same else if ladder. And then there is an else condition here. So they are at the same level. See, by same level, I say that there is this block gets ended here. There's another block that gets started here. So these are at the same level. And then there is this else statements. So in this case, what happens? If this if statement gets executed, Java compiler checks that if there is another else if condition here. So even if this else if condition is correct, because the previous conditional statement already got executed, so this else if condition will not be executed. This else if condition will not be executed. And this else block will also not get executed. Now, let's do one more thing. Let me go ahead and write something here. If I'll introduce one more variable here, and b equal to 10. If b is equal to 10, this was what we were trying to do today, right? B is 10. So this got printed, right, Gaso? Sorry.
Yes,
No, no.
I got it.
If I is less than 5, okay. Let me change this. If let me make the value of I to 2.
You can go ahead for this
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
if I less than 5, it is false. So if
No,
it
no,
is not print,
no. Let's make this condition. Means I change the value. If I is equal to 2, so
okay.
if I is less than 5, right? So this condition is now correct. So
Mm-hmm.
this statement gets printed. So the Java compiler is at this position now, and this if block is within this if block. So consider this also as a pair of statements for this if block. So it prints this if block, sorry, it prints this hello, and then it will also check for this because this if block is within this if block. So when this hello is printed, this if block will not be ignored because it is not at the same level, it is within the outer if block. You're getting me now?
Yeah, from this example, yes.
Yeah. So this is what we were trying to do here as well. I'll come to the. So now let me write another else block here. Now what happens when this gets executed, because b is equal to 10, this gets executed, then this pair of else block will be ignored. Why? Because this if block and this else block are at the same level. This else block corresponds to this if block, and this if block, what are the conditional statements that correspond to the outer if block? This else if, and then this else. You're getting me now? So this hello gets printed, and then it will check for whatever statement is within this if block. So this gets printed, and when this if gets printed, this else block gets ignored. So let me remove this. Let me go to the example that we were seeing today. So this is exactly what we were seeing here today. This is one if block. And see, when I place my cursor over here, you can see that the if block is starting at line number 7 and ending at line number 18, right? You can see the it's getting highlighted. You're able to see that? Yeah,
Yes,
so
I
you,
can see. Yeah. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So this if block starts at line number 7, ends at line number 18. So just see after that, is there any else block or else if block? So there is, right? So
Mhm.
this else block will get ignored. Why? Because this if block and this else block are corresponding to each other. So what happens when this if block is getting executed? This will get ignored. One thing is this will get ignored. Then C was greater than B. This got printed. Then we'll see if B is greater than A. So B is 15, A is 20. So this does not get printed. And next, what will happen? If this block does not get executed, Java compiler will see is there any other else block or else if block corresponding to this. So we have this block, right? So and then there's another if block within this one. So it will go ahead and check for this. Is z equal to 100 is correct? It is correct. So this will print this, and then it will go out of this if block. The control will come out of this if block, and whatever statements are there, it will try to execute those. So this will also get printed. So let's run this again. C is greater than B as expected. Then this hello, sorry, this hello, because this condition was false, so the control went ahead in this else condition, and there was another inner if block. So this condition was correct, it printed this, the control came out, and then it printed this. Is it clear now?
Yes, Veritam, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So this was like nesting of conditional statements, if and else. And one more concept.
But if the main C was not greater than B, the other one will not be, the nested will not be executed, right?
Correct. Yeah, let's make
Okay.
this, yeah, if C is not greater than B, here C was greater than B, so whatever conditions were there, I'll just make this C is, let's make C as like 5. So now C is smaller than B, right? Since C is 5 and B is 15. So this condition, so since this if condition gets is false now, so whatever is there within this, nothing will get executed. And what will happen now? When this condition is false, nothing, all these statements, whatever print statements are there at line 8, line 10, line 14, line 16, this does not get executed. And what will get executed? The corresponding else block. So there will be only one thing that will be getting printed. B is greater than C. B is greater than C. Because this if condition is false, so nothing, no inner conditions, no nested blocks, nothing will get executed, because the parent if condition itself is false. So everything else will be like ignored. And after this, corresponding to this if block, there's an else block. So this gets printed. You're clear now?
Yes, thank
Yeah, sure. Practice more this if else conditional statements. So this is easy. This is like very easy, but just try to like do some hands on, then it will be like the concepts will be more clear to you. So you can like go through these slides. I think these slides you already might have. So you can just see for this. These are same things. Like if day of week equal to 0 means this int day of week integer dot parseInt. This is like another way of taking input. I will explain you later. But say int day of week. This int day of week, there was some value to this, like suppose say 4. So day of week was assigned a value of 4. So what happens? It will check for this. If day of week equal to 100, system.out.println Sunday. So this condition was false, right? So it will go ahead and check for another else if condition, because these are at the same level. So day of week equal to 1, again it will, the condition is false. So this will also not get printed. So similarly, day of week equal to 2, this will be also false. So it will check for day of week equal to 3, this is also false. And then day of week equal to 4. So since the day of week had the value of 4, this statement will get printed, Thursday will be printed, and since all the else if conditions here below are at the same level, those will not be printed. So these things we already saw. So you can have like a number of else if blocks to an if block. An if block can contain another if block, it can contain another else if block. So it can be uh, there can be any level of nesting. And one more concept, can an else block exist without an if block? Everyone there?
I don't think so.
Yes, yes, yep.
Yeah. So you're correct. So an else block will not exist if there is no if block. So we cannot directly go and write an else block because an else block always corresponds to an if block. And also one thing, can an else if block exist without an if block? The answer is no. For an else if block, we need to have at least one if block. Only then we can have else if block. And also for an else block, we need to have at least one if block. So else if and else need at least one if block at the same level. So else block and else if block, these cannot independently exist. But if block can definitely independently exist. So we can have an if block and we don't need to have another else block or else if block. So we can simply have an if block. We don't need to have another else if block or else block. Is it clear?
But we can have else block without else if, right?
Yeah, we can have else block without else if. But we cannot have else block without an if block. We can have else block. There is no need for an else block to have an else if. That is not a mandatory condition. There can be an if block and corresponding to that we can have another else block. But for an else block or for an else if block, there needs to be an if block. If block is mandatory. Everyone with me?
Yes, yes, Pranita.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see another topic now, and that is switch statement. So what we basically mean by switch statement? So switch statement is another kind of like conditional statement. So we saw the previous example, right? Where we were trying to see this if else if ladder, right? And we were trying to see how this executes. So this we had already seen. This example we had already seen. Like what we are basically trying to see in this example, we are basically trying to see if the day is 0, we are trying to compare, we are trying to print Sunday. If the day of week is 1, we are trying to print Monday. If the day of week is 2, we are trying to print Tuesday, and so on. So this program is basically checking that. And we can write a similar program with this switch case as well. So if you can see this switch block, so how the syntax is switch day of week. So day of week is basically, this is like taking an integer variable. Since the day of week is integer, so what we can basically do, we can, I'll first explain you what the syntax of this conditional statement is. Let me go ahead and create one demo program, switch conditional, switch conditional statement. Let me create one main method, and then let me try to create one variable choice. And what I will do basically, switch. So switch is a keyword which will basically take some input, and that input will be basically, it can take an integer, it can take a character, and in some Java versions it can take string as well. So here we are taking an integer value. Let me pass this choice, and let me assign choice a value. Let me assign a value of 2 to this choice. And what our syntax is basically, we need to write this keyword case. So this is a Java keyword case, and after case we need to put a space, and what can be the value of choice. So choice will, let's give a value of 0, and then what we basically do, we basically put a colon, and after that we basically write some print statements. Let me just print out 0, and after this what I basically do, at the same level you need to write another case statement. Press enter, press write 1, then we have 2. So this is similar to your if else if block. So what happens now, when the switch condition is given a choice, it it contains the value 2, right? So this is like an if condition. Say, so case 0 means it will compare this 0 with the value of choice. So is 0 equal to 2? So this is basically, case 0 is basically kind of an condition. You can just, in comments I will write, if choice is equal to 0. So case 0 is corresponding to this if condition. So this is false, right? This condition is false. So this statement will not get printed. You agree with me?
Yes.
So next is case 1. So this will basically correspond to else if block, and this else if block will be choice equal to 1. So else if choice equal to 1, is this correct?
No.
No. So this statement also does not get printed. Now we come to case 2. So when we come here, case 2, so what basically it does is, it will again check else if choice equal to 2. Is this correct? So this is correct, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So since this is correct, what will get printed? 2 will be printed, right? Now let me introduce one more thing. Let me make the value of choice to 5. So what happens now? There was an else block that you studied in conditional statements. So let me In switch statements also, there is something called as default. When you write this default, so what happens? If none of the above statements got executed, if none of these case statements got executed, the default statement will get executed. Whatever is within the default case will get executed. So let me try to print out 5. So now that I've changed the value of choice to 5, this statement did not get executed, this did not get executed, this does not get executed. So now whatever is default, this is similar to the else block that you studied. So this is how you can make comparisons. Your case 0 was your if block, if choice equal to 0. So this does not get executed, this does not get executed, this does not get executed. And then what will get executed? The default case will get executed. So this was the same concept with if, else, right? If none of the corresponding if, else, if statements get executed, the default else condition got executed. So here, this default else would get executed, and this will be printed as 5. Everyone agreeing with me? This is similar to the if else concept, if else concept that we studied. Everyone able to follow me?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is similar to that. So you can try out this as well. Now I need to teach one more thing in loops. Basically, in loops, basically, we need to see the statement how break and continue works. Break and continue. So let me create a main method for you, and then let me write out a simple for loop equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. And one more thing, there's one modulus operator as well. I'll teach you, like, this is the modulus operator. We call it as modulus operator. What modulus operator basically does is, if I write like 5 modulus 2, 5 modulus 2. So what this basically will do is, this modulus operator basically divides, like if I say a modulus b, it basically divides a by b, and whatever is the remainder, it gives me that. So when I say 5 modulus 2, it will basically print 1. Everyone understands this? Hello?
Uh,
Well,
uh, if modulus is equivalent to division,
No. See,
how
what
how
happens
okay
here? Yeah, let me explain. There is some
okay
difference between modulus and division. When you say uh, when you say this division, so this is your division operator. Division operator. So when you say like 5 divided by 2, 5 divided by 2, this will give you the value of 2, because 2 into 2 is 4, and when in integer it gives a remainder, but this will give you 2. If I have a value of 6 divided by 2, it will give me a value of 3. You getting it? If I have a value of 8 divided by 2, it will give me a value of 4. You okay? So when I divide 5 by 2, it will give me a value of 2. And when I divide do a modulus operator, 5 modulus 2. So what it does is like after dividing 5 by 2, what is the remainder that is left? Means this can be also 5. You can write 5 like this as well, right? 5 is equal to 2 into 2 plus 1. This is same, right? If you see 2 into 2 plus 1. So this is basically same. So just understand this. This your modulus operator will give you the remainder after division. Modulus operator gives remainder. So I will use this modulus operator now to show you the use of break and continue. So int I equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. So and I will write down an if condition. In this if condition, I'll write down something like if I modulus 5 is equal to 0, then break. Otherwise, what I'm doing, I'm printing I this. So what happens now? See, I'd written a simple for loop, and in this for loop, I've initialized I to 0, and the condition is I is less than 10. And each time I'm incrementing I by 1. So initially I is 0. The condition is true since 0 is less than 10. So it will go ahead and print this, right? Okay, let me make this as 1. So I is 1, I is less than 10. This condition is true, 1 gets printed. Now 1 modulus 5 is equal to 0. So what do you think? Will this get printed? It will get printed, right? Now 2 modulus 5 is equal to 0. This is false, right? Means when you divide 2 by 5, the modulus is not 0, right? The modulus is 2. So this will not get executed. So again we increment I to 3. So 3 gets printed. Now 3 modulus 5 is equal to 0. 3 divided by 5 does not give me the remainder 0. So this does not get executed. Similarly, 4 modulus 5 does not give me the remainder 0. Now I is equal to 5. So I is equal to 5. So this 5 gets printed. Now 5 modulus 5. When you divide 5 by 5, there is no remainder, right? Because 5 is completely divisible by 5. So this gives me a remainder of 0. So when we write this break statement, so what break statement basically does is it will terminate the loop. It will terminate the loop. So whatever next iterations you have, like I equal to 6, I equal to 7, I equal to 8, I equal to 8, 9, those will not be uh, means those will not be executed. Break means to simply terminate the loop, terminate or exit the loop. Everyone getting me?
Can you run it to see the result?
Yeah, I have run this. See, you can see this below output, right? What happens? I is equal to 1, condition is true. So when the condition is true, we print this statement, we print the value of I, and 1 modulus 5 is equal to 0. 1 modulus 5 is not equal to 0. So this statement does not get executed. So similarly, I gets incremented now. I becomes 2, 2 gets printed, 2 modulus 5 is equal to 2. So it's not equal to 0. So this does not get executed. So similarly, it's the same for I equal to 3 and I equal to 4 as well, because those values uh, uh, those values of I does not give me a value of 0 upon modulus by 5. So when I is equal to 5, when I is equal to 5, so we print 5 at this point, and then 5 modulus 5. So 5 modulus 5 basically gives you a value of 0, right? 5 modulus 5 basically gives you a value of 0. So once this condition is true, once this if condition is true, basically we'll break. So what we basically break is we'll terminate or exit the loop. So the next iterations I is equal to 6, 7, 8, 9, those things does not get executed. So when we basically terminate the loop, we basically go out of this loop. We do not, whatever statements are within the loop will not be executed when the break statement is encountered. You're getting me? Let me just name this program to break break usage. So there is another thing that I want to show you, and that is continue keyword. So break statement was clear to everyone, right?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah, this is very straightforward. Whenever break is basically executed,
Can you give
it
can you
terminates
give
the
to I
loop. Sorry,
can you give to I is equal to 1 instead of 1 can you give to 2?
you want to make I is equal to 1 to I is equal to 2, right? Is this what you're
Mhm.
saying?
Yes.
So even then the output would be same, right? It would be means it would start printing from 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again at 5 it basically the modulus gives me a value of 0. So this break statement is executed and the loop is terminated, right?
How about if
Ye-
you do 5, the remainder to be 1?
You want me to make uh, I
The
is equal to
remainder
5?
to be 1.
You want
No, no, no.
me to make the remainder as 1?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So when we make the remainder as 1, so let's try to execute this. We'll see. I see. Say I was 1, so I got printed, right? 1 got printed because the condition was true. 1 was less than 10, the value of I got printed, right? And 1 modulus 5, 1 modulus 5 is equal to 1, because when you divide 1 by 5, you cannot divide 1 by 5, right? Because 5 is a greater number, so you cannot divide. So 1 modulus 5 will give you a value of 1. So this break statement is encountered and you will just terminate the loop. Now let's make this I is equal to 2. So what happens now? 2 modulus 5 will not give you a value of 1. So 2 will print it. Then 3 modulus 5 will also not give you a value. 3 modulus 5 will give you a value of 3. 4 modulus 5 will give you a value of 4, 5 modulus 5 will give you a value of 0, and 6 modulus 5 will give you a value of 1. So the expected outputs now, see, I is initialized to 2 and the condition is I is less than 10. So 2 gets printed, 3 gets printed, 4 gets printed, 5 gets printed, 6 also gets printed. And when 6 modulus 5 is equal to 1, this gets executed. So this will get terminated. So the expected outputs would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me try to execute this now. See, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, modulus is basically like 1 modulus 5 is equal to 1. 2 modulus 5 is equal to 2. 3 modulus 5 is equal to 3. 4 modulus 5, 4. 5 modulus 5 is equal to 0. 6 modulus 5 is equal to 1. So this is how this is how this modulus operator works. So when you have like 6 modulus 5, you will get the remainder as 1, and then you will terminate the loop. Everyone clear now? So we saw
Yes, but
this. Yeah,
the first one, 1 modulus 5
yes,
is equal to 1, because 1 times, I mean, 0 times, because it's not divided by 5, we're giving 0 times 5.
correct.
Okay,
So
gotcha. Thank you.
yeah, one model. Yeah, you got it. Because it's like it's not divisible, right? It's like 0 times 5, and what is the remainder? It's like 1. Same is like 2 modulus 5. 2 cannot be divided by 5, right? So 0 times 2, and the remainder is 2. So remember always this modulus operator gives you the remainder after division. So if you divide a number A by a number B, so after dividing number A by number B, whatever is the remainder, that is like given to you by the modulus operator. So that is the only thing. So let's see another thing. There is something called as continue statement. So what basically continue statement does is like, it is also something that will work in loops. It will work in your for loop, while loop, and do while loop. And your break will also work in your loops, like for loop, while loop, do while loop. So let me try to show the usage of continue. So continue, what basically does is like, continue statement bypasses the remaining bypasses the statements and executes the next iteration. So continue statement basically bypasses the remaining statements and executes the next iteration. So what I basically mean by that, let me try to show you this with a demo. By demo, things will be more clear. Means I know that this is a definition, like continue statement will basically skip the remaining statements, bypasses or skips the remaining statements and executes the next iteration. Let me write and okay. So let me try to use this same example. Let me copy this example. Let me try to I've used the same program, but what I'm doing differently now is instead of break, I'm using a continue keyword. And I'm making a simple change. I'm printing the statement here now. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So see, I is equal to 2 and this condition is true, right? So when this condition is true, it will go ahead and try to execute this if block. Everyone with me? Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I is equal to 2. The condition is correct. So it will go ahead and try to execute this statement. So it will check, is 2 modulus 5 is equal to 1? So it is false, right? So this continue statement does not get executed because 2 modulus 5 is 2. We already saw this here, right? 2 modulus 5 is 2. So this will not get executed. So it goes ahead and prints this. So next what happens? Is 3 modulus 5 is equal to 1? So this is false. So this again does not get executed. So 3 gets printed. Next what happens? I becomes 4. 4 modulus 5 is equal to 1. This is again false because 4 modulus 5 is 4. So again this condition was false. So this continue statement is not executed. So 4 gets printed. Now what happens? I becomes 5. 5 modulus 5 is equal to 1. 5 modulus 5 gives me a value of 0. So again this condition is false. So this is not executed. So 5 gets printed. Now I become 6. So we saw that when 6 modulus 5, we get a value of 1, right? So when we run this if block now, 6 modulus 5. So what it does is 6 modulus 5 is equal to 1. And now this condition is correct. So I'll write it down. 6 modulus 5 is equal to 1. So continue statement is executed and the print statement at line 12 is skipped. So what will happen now is basically when 6 modulus 5 is equal to 1, this continue statement will be executed and this line whatever code is what see in this for loop when this continue statement is executed, whatever code you have below this in this loop, this will be skipped. This will not get executed. And when this is skipped, what happens now? This statement gets skipped for I equal to 6. So it will not break out of the loop. It will not break out of the loop. It will go to the next iteration. It will go to I is equal to 7. And again, this for I equal to 7, this condition becomes false. So 7 gets printed. So I again for I is equal to 8, this condition is false. So this gets printed, 8 gets printed, and I is equal to 9. So again, this condition is false. So again, this is printed. So only for a value of I equal to 6, this condition will be true. And when the condition is true, basically this continue statement is executed and whatever code you have below the continue statement in that particular for loop that will be skipped and the next iteration will be executed. So let me try to run this. the expected outputs for this particular program will be 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 7, 8, 9. Let me try to run this program. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. You see the output? Why 6 was not printed? Because 6 modulus 5 is basically 1. So this condition becomes true. And then this continue statement is executed. And when the continue statement is executed, this basically gets ignored. This statement is skipped. And after skipping the statement, I is again incremented. I's value becomes 7 and it is executed for I is equal to 7. This particular statement is false. For I equal to 8, this statement is false. For I is equal to 9, this statement is false. And when I is equal to 10, so when I is equal to 10, this condition itself becomes false. And when this condition becomes false, uh, automatically the loop will terminate. Anyone has any questions on this? Or is it clear for everyone?
Yeah, Pritam, it is clear, but I'm asking another question
Okay.
related to this one. If I want to do if I modulus 5 is equal to 1, comma 2, comma 3, can it be executed?
No, you cannot write conditions like separated by comma like this. This will give you syntax error. It does not work like this. You can like write separate conditions. So let
Okay.
me put this condition in one bracket, and then what you can do, you can write another condition like I modulus 5. What you wanted to write is equal to 2, right?
Is equal to 2. Okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can write
great.
the conditions like this.
That's what I need here. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so you can write like multiple conditions. We already saw the use of this AND operator, right? So basically you can write like n number of conditions, like one condition, then again this AND operator, and then again another condition, and again AND operator, and so on. So you can write like this. But
Thank you.
Can you run it
oh, you want me
like
to?
that?
Okay, you
Yeah.
wanted me to run it. Okay, 1 second.
I'm expecting 7 to disappear.
Why are you
Oh,
expecting
oh,
7 to disappear?
no. I thought it's or. If it is or, it will.
Yeah, if it is odd, it will be like different. Because here when we use this logical AND, right, both the conditions should be correct. Only when both these condition, only when this condition and then this condition both are correct, only then it will get executed, right? Let me make this OR for you. So when it is OR, then what happens? I modulus 5 is equal to 2. So whenever this is 2, so for a value of 6, so for a value of 6, this is 1, so 6 got skipped. So for a value of 2, 2 modulus 5 was 2, so 2 got skipped. And then for a value of 7, 7 modulus 5 is again 2, so 7 also got skipped. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can like write multiple conditions like this. There's no issue in that. But for the simplicity of this, I'm removing this because we wanted to basically demonstrate this continue and break statements. So is it clear for everyone?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah. So we'll cover next topics next day. We will cover basically arrays and local variables, and then basically we'll go into classes and objects. So we'll wrap up the class for today by this. So I'll send these demos, and these YouTube videos will be uploaded by end of day today. So basically try to practice these things. So we basically covered break and continue statements, we covered switch statements, and we covered nested if else if conditions. So try to do as much as hands-on so that it will help in clearing your concept even better. If you even have doubts, you can ask in the next class. We'll wrap up the class for today. I'm stopping the sharing and I'll stop the recording as well.
Thank you.